Immediately with Basel Legani Tavshin Chafei. B'siyat Dishmaya Yud Shvat Tavshin Chafei. Basel Legani Achoisi Kalom. I've come to my garden, my sister, my bride. So of course the first two or three paragraphs of here in this mimer is really going to be a summary of the beginning of the mimer that I was going to speak very, very much. The kids are just getting us up to the area in the mimer that he's mainly going to focus on. Maybe Balai a little bit Maimon on Medrash, and the one whose yard site is on Yud Shvat brings the statement of the Medrash, Legani. Why does it say Legani, to my garden? It could have just said Legan, I've come to a garden, meaning when Hashem came down into this world, by Matan Torah and by the building of the Mishkan, he came to a garden. Why does it say Legani, to my garden? Legnoni, to my special place, to my place of unity, my enjoyable place. Lamakim Shayikari Betchila, the place that I was there initially at the beginning of the creation, the Iker Shechina B'tachtoinim Hoysa, that initially, before everything went wrong, so the main place of the Shechina was down here below. And after that, through the sin of the Eitzadas. So, he made the Shechina leave from the earth to the heaven. In the following generations, through them or after they transgressed on Hashem's commandments, so then the Shechina left from one Rakia to the other Rakia, from one firmament to another, until went all the way to furthest up away to the seventh firmament. And afterwards Tzadikim came of the fathers of the world, and they brought down the Shechina from the seventh heaven down here below, till the seventh of the tzaddikim enumerated over there in the Medrash, beginning with Avram Avinu. It concludes with Moshe Rabbeinu, Shekol Hashvin Chavivin, that since all the seventh are special, are beloved, therefore he had the final nail to knock in. He brought it from the lowest firmament. From the first firmament, he brought it down into this earth. This was the intention that the Shechina should return to be down here below. To the place that the Shechina was initially at first. This is what it says. Tzadikim will make dwell the everlasting one upon him. I know this means the purpose and the service of tzaddikim, which Amech calls tzaddikim, your entire nation are tzaddikim, who lost to make for Hashem a home down here below. Through their service in sublimating and transforming the other side, so the glory of Hashem arises in all the worlds. This means, what does it mean? The word istalik, which literally means departs, but it means shemeir, it shines. Top of the next page, that it shines and is revealed the light of Soiviv. The level of Soiviv is called the glory of the Kuchabrichu, that it's in all the worlds equally, not like the Oyer Amali, the Koel, Oyer Soiviv Kolamin. It's referring to the light that encompasses all the worlds, that it shines in all the worlds equally, in a way that's like removed and above the worlds. That's why the term that's used is istalik, to show that it's talking about this very high level of light. Because of this, what it says in the pasuk, they shall make for me a sanctuary, and I shall dwell amongst them. It doesn't say I shall dwell in it. Why does it say amongst them? It's going both on the Mishkan and Migdash Hashem will dwell, but also also within them, in each and every single Yid. How come does the Shechina rest in every single Yid? Because they are the ones responsible for bringing the Shechina down. Shehem elu shemashkinim. They are the ones that make rest. Hainush mamshichim. This means they draw down. Shechinosi is baruch lamata. His blessed Shechina down here below. Shezeu yishkenu la'adaleh. That's what we said before in the pasuk. Tzadikim yishkenu la'adaleh. Tzadikim will make the everlasting one, Hashem, reside upon it, upon the earth. And that's why, since all the Yidden are the tzaddikim that do this, so the Shechina is sheichen in them as well, the Dira is in them as well. Second paragraph, line 10 on the second page, and the Maimer and the Hemshech of the Frierdiker Rebbe continues to explain. Sheikar avoida Mishkan and Migdash, the primary avoida that was done, the service that was done, the Mishkan and Migdash. The purpose of the Mishkan and Migdash is to effect that it should be I will dwell. Inyan HaKarbonis is the Karbonis is the main avoida in the Beis HaMikdash. There is a dispute between the Rambam and the Ramban. What is the main article? What is the main vessel in the Beis HaMikdash? But there's no question about it. As far as avoida is concerned, the avoida is done primarily, even though there's the avoida of kindling the menorah, there's the avoida of placing the lachem upon, but the main core avoida is the avoida of karbanos, ve'aktoides, and also the incense offering that was brought on the inner mizbech, on the golden mizbech. That the idea behind the karbanos is like the statement of the Zohar Rosa, the Korban Ha'olah, that the secret and the mystery of the karbanos goes up all the way till the secret and mystery of the infinite, meaning that the karbanos are reach up to the very most highest levels of godliness. And that is the first step of the karbanos, the elevation, the ascent. Every ascent, every surustal asata is followed by a drawing down. Well, and through the karbanos comes what Hashem says, that it's a reach nichoyach. What's it mean, a pleasing scent? It means that there was a pleasantness before me that I said my will was fulfilled. The idea of nachas ruach is showing on the drawing down below, because the word nachas is from the word in Aramaic, it says nochis, descending, going down. So first there is the ascent, that the secret of the karbanos ascends all the way to the Ein Sof, and then there is the level of nachas, there's the level that it descends. This is also the idea that the Mishkan was made from shittim wood. Like it says, we shall make the boards, the beams for the Mishkan, standing shittim wood. Shittim is from the word foolishness, like it's brought down the Medrash. Meaning, what are you doing with foolishness in the Mishkan? A person has to transform the shtus of the world and to make it into boards and beams for the Mishkan. Like it's also emphasized in the word kedesh, which is the singular of kroshim, that the word kedesh as well is taking a negative and transforming it. That kedesh is oisius sheker, is the same letters like the word sheker, falsehood. Let's explain at length in the Maimer the idea of these letters, the meaning of the kuf, the shin, the reish, etc., and their counterparts in kedusha. Both in what they hint above, and both what's supposed to be in the service of a person. What's again the point over here? This means from the falsehood of the world, we are making boards for the Mishkan. In such a way they are called standing. What's the idea of standing? Top of page 3, just like a beam. When you have a beam in a building, they join what is above with below, and they join the below with above. They join the ceiling with the floor, and the floor with the ceiling. Until it becomes one building. It's not a ceiling and a floor, two separate buildings. It's one entire building that's joined together by these beams. So in a similar vein, the amudim, the kroshim, oimdim, and the mishkan become a joining between above and below, because we transformed the negative into the positive. All of this is accomplished through the avodah by taking and by transforming it all to foolishness, to shittim of the holy. Folly of kedusha means that a person does avodah beyond reason and knowledge, just like simple foolishness means a person is doing something irrational, illogical. So the same way he has to do his service of Hashem also in a super rational manner. When he does it, so he's transforming the shtus and the atzeh shittim into oimdim, something that joins the top and the bottom. This avoid is accomplished through the Yidden that are called The hosts of Hashem, the army of Hashem. Second paragraph, line 8. And he continues to explain in the Hemshech, even more in depth, why are Yidden called the army of Hashem? What's the idea of an army? But through an army, they can go out into war and be victorious in it. We see in a kingship, in a government down here below, the idea of victory matters to the king very, very much so. And to such a degree, that such a degree that all the treasures, both what he set aside himself, and also what his forefathers set aside as treasures, they're so precious that they don't even display them. How much more so if they don't even display them, how much more so they don't use them. But still, in all, despite the preciousness of these treasures, in Bishvil, for the sake of the victory in the war, the king opens up his treasure houses and he totally spends them. They are administered and they are distributed via the officers for the sake of the soldiers, the army of Havaya, so they should be victorious in the war. So now, this is more or less the summation of all the topics that really flow into where we're holding very, very soon going to be starting. So now we're going to get to the last few lines that are going to lead into our topic. To be able to understand what does it mean a treasure. We say there are concealed treasures that a king distributes for the victory in the war. These are treasures that are so high and so deep that the king never uses except to be victorious. So to be able to understand this idea of treasure, he has to explain it what it means beruchnis. He prefaces what is brought down the Zohar and the Tikkun Zohar. The infinite light of Hashem is high to no end and reaches down below to no end as well. Like he concludes later on in the Maimer, again before the 15th chapter, the idea of above to no end. That is the level of the treasure. That's the main part that we need to know for our explanation. We need to define what is Lamayla Den Ketz, because that level, high to no end, that is the treasure. That's the concealed thing that is never given out except for victory. But before we can define that, to be able to understand it with breadth and with great and with depth, the great idea of what this is higher to no end. So he explains in previous Oisias, we explained the great idea that he's down below to no end, that it expands in a way that's infinite to very, very much below. In such a manner, in every place that he comes down, even the way he's down here below. The Ein Sof nature doesn't become diluted. Even when it comes down here below, it retains this infinite nature, that shows how powerful the Ein Sof is and how great it is that even over here, even below, it retains the idea of the Ein Sof. Once we have explained how even Lamata Mata Adin Tachlis, that even down here below he'll have this nature of the Ein Sof. So now he says in line 29, he begins to explain the idea that it's above to no end. That he's above to no end is so much higher than the fact that he's below to no end. And after that, he concludes, Shazo Inyan Ha'oitzer, top of page, the fourth page of the Maimer, Shafilu Inyan Zeh Noistum Lanshatzova, even this level, the level of the treasure of Lamaila Den Ketz, we give to the military, not just an ordinary giving, in a way of just giving without any calculations or limitations. From this itself is understood to what degree the victory matters for the king himself. So now we're going to finally get into the main topic of the Maimer and Tavshin Chafei. And the Frierdiker Rebbe begins to explain in the 15th Perek of the Hemshech of the series, quote. So now he's going to quote sections of the Frierdiker Rebbe's Maimer and elaborate upon it, and then go on further and quote some more. Just like the infinite light of Hashem reaches down below in expanding and revelation to no measure and number whatsoever, so too it's the infinite light of Hashem that's way up above high to no end, the concealment of the light. It's an ascent following an ascent, a concealment following a concealment, and an ascent after an ascent. And in what way is this express itself? In how lacking it is in light and how lacking it is in revelation, as the Rebbe is going to emphasize and explain. In general, this idea that the Eid Sof is Lamaila den Ketz, that is referring to the idea of the constriction that was in the infinite light of Hashem. Shehu his almus ha'or, it's the light becoming concealed. V'his kalulus ba'atzmus yisbarach, as becoming subsumed within Hashem's essence. That up to here is the first quote of the Frierdiker Rebbe's Maimer. Now the Rebbe is going to elaborate upon this. Line 14. The idea behind this is the this is right, this makes sense concerning the idea that the infinite light of Hashem reaches down below to no end. Since essentially the infinite light of Hashem is the way it is before the Tzimtzum, since it's Ein Sof, it's infinite, so there's nothing really that can truly constrain it. It's understood the great matter that by its being drawn down below, so far below that there's nothing below it, there's no level lower than our worlds. That it's in a way that it's no end if you compare it to the way it was before the Tzimtzum. And you say despite that descent, he still retains that Ein Sof nature, so then we can understand, wow, this is amazing, this is unbelievable. How can it be? It goes down so far and it doesn't lose this stature of being Ein Sof. Movement, but it's not understood. What's the idea? The infinite light of Hashem is above to no end. Even without that, there is there already the Ein Sof before the Tzimtzum. What's the idea of it being above to no end? When we say, it comes down so low, further and further and further, so far, and still it's Ein Sof. Wow, that's a big chiddush. But here you're talking about Ein Sof l'mayla than Ketz. We're talking about it's Lifnei Tzimtzum. What's the big deal that's Ein Sof when it's l'mayla than Ketz? So to answer that, or to explain that and elaborate upon that, concerning this, the Maimer, the Frierdiker Rebbe explains. What's it mean that it's higher and higher to no end? What's the chiddush of its being there so high? Just like the chiddush of the lamata mata din tachlis is that even though it's so low and so far from its source, it still has an infinite nature to it. So in a similar vein, when we talk about how high the Ein Sof is, the Ein Sof is so high in the level of the Helam Ha'oyer Shu Behelam Achar Helam Be'ilu Achar Ilu B'chlos V'Nat Tzimtzum. The unbelievable nature of how high it is how high it is, how concealed it is, which is the general idea of Tzimtzum. That is the Chiddush over here. So again, just like the Chiddush is that in Lamata Mata and Tachlis, that despite the Tzimtzum, the Ein Sof is still there. Here the Chiddush is that it goes up in the most highest way. That Tzimtzum is so powerful, such a powerful exertion on the Ein Sof, or has such unbelievable force as regards to the Ein Sof, to make it completely concealed and above and removed. Again, as the Rebbe is going to explain what the significance of that is. Line 26, second paragraph on the page, third paragraph. The idea behind this is, like it's explained in the teaching in the Baal Shem Tov that was printed in Keser Shem Tov. As we know in the Basel Legani Mamorim, the Rebbe brings an idea from all the Rabbeim, beginning from the Baal Shem Tov. In the later years, the Rebbe brought also in something from his father. In the first Maimer Basel Legani, he just started with the Alter Rebbe, not with Baal Shem Tov, and then the Rebbe said to make that up. So in the Maimer Hayshev's Beganim, recited shortly afterwards, he brought in from the Baal Shem Tov and the Mezusha Magi. Anyway, so he says that the Baal Shem Tov teaches with Pirush HaKos of Bereshis Bara Elokim this is what the Baal Shem Tov explains on the pasuk. Bereshis, first of all, what does Bereshis mean? V'tirgim Yonason b'chachma. Targum Yonason said that he created with chachma. That's like it says, Reishis chachma yiras Hashem. So chachma is the level of Bereshis. The Baal Shem Tov adds to the Targum Yonason that chachma shu ois aleph. The chachma is the level of the letter of aleph. K'mashikasav aleph chachma. The simple meaning is, I will teach you chachma. What we see, aleph, because in the word aleph and chachma comes together. So Bereshis has to do with the letter aleph. Then, v'nisativ boy, Hashem kaviyachol wrapped himself up in it, b'toich ois aleph, within the letter aleph, ubara oir min ois aleph, and he created a light from this letter of aleph, v'oir atzilus, and it's the light of atzilus. Just like chachma is the beginning of the world of atzilus. V'acharka chazar v'nisativ im ois beis, after v'acharka nisativ im ois aleph b'ois beis. I'm sorry, I skipped a line. Second line from the bottom. Again, v'acharka nisativ im ois aleph b'ois beis. Afterwards, he wrapped himself up with the letter aleph in the letter beis. Ubar oil mabriya created the world of bria. V'acharka chazar v'nisativ im ois beis b'soich ois gimel, top of page tes. And then afterwards, after being wrapped in the letter Beis, he wrapped himself up in the letter Gimel, Bara Oil Mislamatam Oil Abriya, and he created the worlds beneath the world of Briya. Until he wrapped himself up in the letter Taf, and he created the lower worlds. I'm not sure if the significance of the letter Taf is just that it's the last of the letters, or also Taf is maybe because Rosh Tevis Tachtoinim, and the same thing, Aleph and Beis has to do with Atzilus, Bria, Rosh Tevis. I'm not sure. Something to speculate on or to look it up to see if any Mamorim explain it. That's why it says Bereshis Baralakim Eis. Eis is Aleph and Taf. The Eibishter, we said, wrapped himself up in Aleph and then in Beis and in Gimel until in Taf. It's the 22 letters from the letter Aleph until Taf. In those 22 letters of the Aleph base, with which he created all those different worlds, Ruchniusay Yisbarach Shenikra Shomayim. It's the spirituality of Hashem that it's called heavens. Shenisatav v'nislabish HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'soich Esrim V'shtayim Oisis Elu, that Hashem wrapped himself up in these 22 letters of Baras HaAretz, and then he created the earth. It's all the material matters of the world. So you have the spirituality of the heavens that's enclosed in the letters to create the physicality, materialism of the earth. It's through the 400 garments from the letter Aleph of Tav till Tav, whatever that is, he doesn't explain. That there's a lower world, that there's nothing lower than it. Let's just learn another 4 lines. And after the Eibishter again concealed himself in many coverings and many shells. The inun toyu v'avoyu v'choshchu tohoim. This is the 4 words that it says that there was emptiness and wonder and so on, and darkness and upon the deep. Those are 4 different levels of klippus. That's the world was toyu avoyu v'choshech abnei toim. All this came about through the name Elokim. Bereishis ba'Elokim shu inagvur v'tzimtzum. That Bereishis ba'Elokim, that the idea of Elokim, which is severity and constriction, so that brought it all about. We'll stop over here.